Hey everybody, thank you so much for clicking on this video. We're going to talk about a trend that I've been seeing a lot more prevalent recently, and that is this trend of trying to grow your glutes without growing your thighs. All right. Today we're going to talk about why I don't like this trend from a long-term health standpoint, but also why the implementation really doesn't make much sense. Let's start with the health aspect here. Now, I do want to remind you that you are allowed to want your body to look any way that you want. I believe in bodily autonomy, your body, your choice. So if you want to look like you have a BBL without actually having one, more power to you. But I also believe in informed decision making, meaning you deserve to know the risks of this type of training. So if we never train the thighs to achieve a lean look on that part of the leg, we're gonna be neglecting a few key muscle groups here: the quads, the abductors, the adductors, and the hamstrings. Now, to make sure we're on the same page, let's just quickly break down what these muscles do and how they support us in daily life. And we're also gonna keep this really simple and generalized here, so I understand I'm missing like certain pockets of information, but we're gonna pick like one muscle action and one example for how these muscles support us in life. So starting with the quads, your quads are going to be in charge of knee extension. That shows up in daily life by sitting up from a chair, walking up the steps, getting up off the ground, lots of examples here. Your abductors and adductors are going to both bring the leg away from or toward the midline. So think of these both as stabilizers for the hips, which is really going to help protect your low back. Finally, the hamstrings are going to be one of the prime movers for hip extension. Now your glutes also do this, and obviously if you're only going to be working your glutes, you're going to hit a lot of this. So we're going to instead talk about your hamstrings and the huge role they play in protecting your ACL. Your ACL, or anterior cruciate ligament, protects your tibia from sliding in front of the femur and provides rotational stability to the knee. Now, I'm sure you've heard of an ACL before. You hear about it a lot. Like, let's say if you watch American football, people get tackled, people fall wrong, they tear their ACL. But you've also more than likely heard of an everyday person tearing their ACL. I can think of 5 people off the top of my head who I've known in the last 5 years to suffer this injury. And studies have shown over the years that increased hamstring strength can help prevent ACL tears during dynamic activity. So my point here is that if we're neglecting different muscles that help protect different joints, different ligaments through full ranges of motion in all directions and all tempos, we're really opening ourselves up to some injury here. Injury occurs when the force we meet is too much for our current musculature or strength to handle. And we also have to remember that not all injury I'm talking about is just something as severe as an ACL tear. Most of what I'm talking about is just like daily aches and pains. It could be that knee pain that's been nagging you for months. It could be your low back on the right side that seems to go out every other week. It's these little things that keep happening that keep you out of the gym, that keep you inconsistent with your training. And little chronic pains like this are actually pretty easily preventable with well-rounded training that, I don't know, doesn't neglect entire muscle groups just because you want to look like a Kardashian. Again, you can do whatever you want, but I just find that the pressure from social media, influencers, celebrities to look a certain way tends to cloud our judgment. And to be honest, I don't want to abide by their standards just to be deemed worthy and beautiful. So all of that to say, just weigh the risk versus reward before you start to atrophy your thighs. All right, now let's look at the actual implementation and programming aspect of this. We want to work the glutes, right? And that's actually 3 different muscles. We've got the glute max, the glute med, and the glute min. And the main muscle actions we're going to see here are hip extension, external hip rotation, and hip abduction. And this gives us a lot of options for exercises, right? Not if you don't want your knees involved. Because remember, the second you get your knees involved, knee extension is going to be a function of your quads, and we're trying not to grow those, right? One of the most popular and effective exercises that I see for glute growth is a Bulgarian split squat. I love them. They're a great choice if you want big, strong glutes, but it's a knee-dominant exercise. So no matter how glute biased you make this by lengthening your stride, taking a little bit more of a hip lift here, you're still gonna be working your quads. Like, you're still bending and extending your knees. So you're working the dreaded thighs, oh no! And this is one of the issues that I have with like 99% of the content out there. You'll see someone promoting this content of like, grow your glutes without your thighs, and then they're doing split squats. It's promising you one thing where you'll grow your glutes, yes, 100%, but exercises like that will also 100% grow your thighs. It's people putting out content or programs without the basic understanding of anatomy, like the bare minimum, which is infuriating. So if you got this far in the video and you're like, I don't care, screw my knees, let's build that butt without your thighs. Here's what I would do. Deadlifts. Lots of different variations here. You've got bilateral, you've got unilateral, but you have to be careful not to make it too much of a straight leg because that is going to grow your hamstrings. Your hamstrings connect at both the knee and the hip. So the straighter your thigh is, the more work you're gonna put into your hamstrings and less in your glutes. You've also got hip thrusts and bridges at your disposal. But once again, being careful of the variation. Single leg hip thrusts are gonna recruit a ton of hamstring and inner thigh because they're gonna be big stabilizers. And then elevated bridges tend to bias the hamstrings as well. We can also do some different cable kickback variations. If I'm being honest, I am not super well versed in these. I never really do them because I don't like them, but there's a ton of different variations here that are going to be definitely more hip dominant. And then finally, you can do some hyperextensions. The only thing to be careful of here is that you're not biasing the low back and you're really making this a little bit more glute focused. And that's kind of it. You got 4 exercises. You got a lot of variations with the deadlifts, but again, you just got to be careful that you're not working from too much of a straight leg. And those are great exercises. I'm not shitting on them by any means. I'm simply shitting on the lack of diversity in training. You're going to be really strong in the sagittal plane and extending your hips, and that's about it. But when you then encounter anything out of your gym routine, what happens? When the body standards change and the beauty image standards change, what happens? You know, the final thing I just want to touch on is that you don't know how the person on the other end of the screen actually achieved that look. They might be telling you one thing, but can we all agree not everything on the internet is true? There are plenty of people who undergo cosmetic procedures and then sell a glute growth program. There are plenty of people wearing padding underneath their leggings. Filters have become so prevalent. It's actually like scary how well these filters can just morph someone's body into looking a completely different way. And then of course there's genetics. There are just some people who are born with tiny thighs and big butts, and that's fine. But again, I am looking at training from a health standpoint with the sprinkling of aesthetics on top, right? I want to look nice. I want to look good. I want to look attractive. But to me, those are all side effects of training. And my main reason for training is health. Personally, I just think if we can find more reasons to move outside of just the physical outcome, the better off we're going to be. So let me know if you have any questions about anything we chatted about in this video. Again, no shame to anyone who wants their body to look a certain way. I just find that by working with people, having undergone, different disordered patterns in my past, I find that the more things you have to measure in terms of progress and success outside of just the physical aspects of training, the better off you're going to be right up here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos, and I will see you all in the next one.